The following program is intended for mature audiences.
All right, everyone, jump into your DeLorean and fire up the yacht rock because we're delving into the glorious spy mystery trash heap that is Malibu Express. Now, this ain't anything as sophisticated as, say, a James Bond flick. This is breast auteur Andy Sidaris unleashed. A technicolor explosion of babes, bullets, and enough memories to choke a whole hospital full of newborns. First off, we got Sybil freaking Danning. Just as a quote-unquote special appearance, they say. Hogwash, I say. She might not grace us with her presence for the whole runtime like in Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf, but trust me, every second she's on screen is worth your $1.99 rental. Let's not forget Regis and Joy Philbin doing their best love guru impressions in a cameo that'll leave you scratching your head and snorting your beverage. But Malibu Express ain't all about the famous faces, no siree. We got a whole damn zoo of characters with credits such as, this is just its own criteria here, Playboy Playmates, Barbara Edwards, Kimberly MacArthur, Lorraine Michaels, and Linda Wisemeyer as June Knockers. We also got, for the ladies watching at home, Mr. Universe, John Brown as Luke, Richard Bros as Mr. Arizona as Mark. We also got Susan Regard, who plays Sexy Sally. You might know her from her victories as Miss Overdrive, whatever the fuck that is. To best break down the Skinamax classic, I've brought in someone as equal to me in their fandom of all things bosom, Madame Molly Razz Raspberry. You know her from Twitter. Welcome back. I told you we were going to talk about trash. We are the sex educators for a new generation using the films of Andy Sidaris. Trash is on the agenda. We're going to dive into it. Thank you for joining me. Is this a porno?
I think the question is, does it turn you on? And I'm not sure it does. So I'm not sure it really functions as that. It's the boobs go by way too fast to be like, I'm enjoying this. Like, no, it's just like so many jump cuts in this film. It just jumps. I'm just like, hey, stop. She's got a nice breast. No, jump. So you're like, I can't even appreciate this. You're going so fast.
Last time you were on, we were talking about.
Was wild.
Last time you were on, we were talking about Renoir and Truffaut and Fellini and amongst other people. Though Fellini is a great breast monger among filmmakers, so he kind of fits in with this. I'd love to see Malibu Express as directed by Federico Fellini, but those were Criterion films. Mr. Sidaris, the late great Andy Sidaris, all of his movies come on a DVD. Like all 12 of them, you can get it for $8.99 at Walmart. So not exactly the Criterion collection. If this isn't a porno, is this a bisexual film?
I'm not sure it really would count as that either, because Cody's character, who I kind of see as like the poorest man's Matthew McConaughey possible, is
I can see that.
Not really sexualized for the most part. Well, you do see his bare body a lot, but he's not
sexualized, but you do see his
chest,
rippling bare body, heavily oiled. He has a full gunfight in a shower where nothing but his dick roots are showing, and his pants are barely holding on. And he's got a very long phallic-like gun that he ironically can't hit anything.
Can't shoot anything, no.
That's what leads me to believe, if I were to apply some lenses, some interpretive lenses to this, I think you could make the case that this is the most homophobic gay movie ever made.
I think 300 would have you beat for that. But this one's pretty
this
close.
is the second most homophobic gay movie ever made.
But also,
I'm not even sure
I think Stewart is the best character in this entire film. He kind of gets me off a Brian Eno vibe, but if Brian Eno was actually gay.
Well, by Stewart, like, you're talking about drag performer Michael Andrews, who this is antiquated language here, Molly, so I apologize. But he won Miss Gay USA in 1986 and 1987, I think, were the years that he won, which was a drag show. So Miss Gay USA was a drag show. We call it something else now. The terminology is all over the place, but we were still figuring it out in the 80s. Like all great drag performers, very homely man, very homely.
Very
there
much the receding hairline.
Yes.
Yes.
There are photos of Michael Andrews in drag on the internet, pre-DSLR, where he is a shockingly attractive woman. Shockingly.
I think I got it right. I got the quote that Cody says when, after he gets out of the limo, when Shane could not blackmail him. Blackmail was like, oh, honey, I'm not doing that. But then, and Cody just says, Stuart has just turned into the most gorgeous woman. And it's completely, there's no sarcasm in the voice. Cody is just like, yes, he is a beautiful woman. It's like, yes, he goddamn is.
Yeah, he is. He's one of the best looking women in the movie. And I don't know what it is about ugly men that make attractive women. At least, as far as drag goes, but my God, if you want to know the transformative power of makeup and a good wig, go find a homely man and have him do drag. So famously, Andy Sidaris gets a lot of heat or criticism, if that's what you want to call it, because he's seen as a misogynistic filmmaker, sort of a more tawdry version of Russ Meyer, if such a thing were possible, perhaps a more tawdry Roger Corman, may he rest in peace, or piss, depending on how you feel about Roger Corman.
Or more like a more action-packed Doris Wishman, in a sense. Because when I was watching this film and I saw all the boob shots, I was like, this is giving me the feeling of watching that nudist camp movie Doris Wishman directed, where I saw so many boobs. And then I just got bored because there are just so many boobs and no personalities attached to them. There are so
many breasts in this movie in particular. All of his movies, but this movie in particular, Malibu Express. And yet they're not shot for the most part in this film with a lustful gaze. It's just sort of matter of fact boobery. It's just
like matter of fact. Oh, women just love being unclothed in this universe. This idea. I mean, the two women in his yacht just like showering together, like straight girl communal shower. Just like.
Can you explain to me what the actual plot of this film is? We're talking about Cody. We're talking about Darby Hinton is the actor. That sounds like a fake name. And it very well may be.
There's so many plots in here. It's trying to literally pad out this runtime.
Darby Hinton plays Cody Abilene. Cody Abilene carries his gun in a cowskin briefcase. He's a Texas private investigator who gets recruited by the American intelligence apparatus to investigate the Soviets in his newfangled world of computers via a wealthy family who he already knows or has a relationship with somehow, at least the matriarch of it, because the son-in-law or nephew of the matriarch has a computer company and he's involved in maybe selling secrets to the Russians,
yeah.
But there's also tawdry sexual escapades going on amongst the bourgeoisie of this family and of their servants, and blackmail and
he's also got sort of his relationship with the cop Beverly, who
former fling, who's the captain of police or whatever the fuck she is, and so it's this Texas guy who apparently knows a shit ton of people in Malibu.
And a lot of women who want to sleep with him. So
every woman he meets wants to get topless and jump in the shower and have sex with him on his yacht.
I think the only reason Lady Chamberlain did not is because she's in a wheelchair.
She's an invalid, yes. Unfortunately. And he doesn't seem like he's interested, for the most part, in having sex with most of these women. They're throwing themselves at him. There's also like a speed, like there's also like a racetrack whole subplot where he knows
that family, that it's like almost like the more redneck version of Hatfield and McCoy's, or like a Poyle family rivalry with like It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, there's this racetrack adjacent family who knows Cody and is always trying to race him to get his truck. And it's like a gag out of Cannonball Run or something. It's this repeating gag throughout the movie.
Feel like it.
But they will stop mid action sequence we got to get to the computer factory before the Russians do to get the secret to for
it's
Lady
like it
Contessa.
remembers like, oh wait, we do have a plot to this movie. There is a plot. We have to get back to it.
Right. But then they stop so that he can have another tete-a-tete with these hillbillies in his truck. And then that'll go on for 5 minutes. And like at one point, they're literally racing to get somewhere to accomplish something in the third act. The movie stops because the hillbillies stop him. And he goes, well, I'll see you on the racetrack. They divert their entire journey towards the conclusion of the film to then go back where they came from, to go back to this racetrack where June Knockers runs a racing team or whatever.
Yes.
So he can beat them with a rocket car.
This is my daddy's car.
This is my daddy's car, yeah. So that he can then proceed to pick up with the conclusion of the film. It's so the editing, timing, and pacing of this movie are very strange.
Yes, and an addendum, they asked the rivalries, the Duffys. Is that what they were? They cheated in the first race, so it feels a bit. So it feels like, oh, it's okay that he cheats in the third race. They cheated the first one, so just like,
yeah, it's very strange. They decide to cast.
And also, he has a relationship with a phone sex hotline person who actually does, like, touches her breasts and actually shows her breasts when the phone sex hotline is going on.
Periodically, he just calls this phone sex operator, and then you see the call center with leather daddies and
leather daddy representation. That's what we love to see.
Leather daddy representation, and I'm sure I think there's some more drag queens and some bears and. There's all of these different sexual proclivities and kinks are represented. And a woman who mid-conversation, non-sexual, because she's like a recruit that works for him and does spying for him.
Yeah, there's like spy stuff.
Yeah.
She's also like, I have to get into this too. And so she's actually like fondling her breasts, like
she
bare
constantly
breasts.
is
like,
pulling her boobs out. Yeah. And he's just talking to her about like,
who is this for?
Who is this for? Yeah. It's like, okay, I need you to tap the phone of so-and-so to figure out what Lady Contessa's up to. And she's like,
I almost want to be like, Andy, do you think people who work on phone sex lines are actually doing the acts they're saying they're doing on the line?
Oh, Cody. Oh, when are you going to come over here and show me what you got, big boy?
God, I'm touching myself just right now. And then she just like, coffee break time. I'm touching myself right now.
Yeah, but we're watching her actually touch herself to the disinterest of the male
the other phone
protagonist. And then none of the other phone sex operators are masturbating publicly.
Of course not. We're not going to have the men do it. Because there were some leather daddies there, just like, no, that'd be gay.
Famously, though, I was getting at with Mr. Sidaris is that famously he gets most of the flack, but he produced and wrote a lot of these movies with his wife.
Yes.
So that's where I feel like is there conflicting energies here where, okay, he's all about female sex operators helping Texas PIs who are working for the CIA to try to stop the Russians masturbating and funneling their breasts for no apparent reason. And the wife is really into drag, and the wife is really into Cody Abilene's butt, and all the seemingly camp gay culture stuff that's like thrown into this movie. And again, not ironically,
and it's not really shown as such a bad thing in this movie.
Correct.
There's slight homophobia, but
not in a fearful way.
Cody doesn't say, "Oh, what if the only guy who says the F slur against gay people is the bad guy. It's Shane."
Correct.
Cody never says anything like that. None of the good guys say anything like that. I'm like, that's pretty progressive for the 1980s.
It's pretty progressive for a Skinamax boob action spy thriller.
Exactly.
Like, what the fuck? So then I'm like, okay, is this Sidaris? Is this Mrs. Sidaris? Is this, I think her name's Arlene or whatever. Was this his wife? Is this Andy? Is this Arlene? Or was it the meeting of the minds? Were they, the guy who plays Stewart, he shows up in a couple more of these Andy Sidaris films. Were they friends of his? Was it through his input?
He was.
Right. Like, I want to know, why did you decide in a movie that already has too many plots to have a drag queen blackmail subplot where the drag queen refused to be,
and it doesn't even work.
Yeah, it refuses to be blackmailed. It's like, I don't care if you tell people, it's not going to work. I don't give a shit.
We're not getting divorced.
Yeah, we're not getting divorced. She's got her secrets. I have mine. Nobody cares. And then you have your protagonist see Stuart get out of the limo and go, Stuart went in there a man and came out a beautiful woman. And again, it's not funny. It's not a joke. He's just commenting on how attractive.
He's making an observation right into his tape recorder.
To his tape recorder for himself.
It's some of the worst exposition in any 80s film. And they use that as an excuse for the tape recorder. And it's just like he's stating so much of the obvious. It's kind of just like, I think Cody's really, really stupid. Besides not being able to shoot.
Well, yeah, it has that. Okay, it has that device that like detective noir books do, right? Or even movies. Some movies do with the voiceover. But rather than he has an intermittent voiceover as well. But in scenes where where it's not logical for him to have a voiceover, they give him a tape recorder and he does the voiceover live to tape for himself.
Exactly. And he's like, man, I'm glad I started doing this.
He does less than nothing to end up solving this mystery. They cast Sybil Danning, of all people you could possibly cast. They cast Sybil Danning
so good
as an Italian countess who's also a counter agent for. Is she working for Italy? Is she just a general spy? What agency does she work for?
They don't say. And she basically spoon feeds him what really happened and what's going on.
That's the other thing.
Figure it out himself.
There ends up being this whole mystery of a guy who is the chauffeur, butler. What exactly is
Shane.
He? Shane. What is Shane?
He's the guy that they reveal at the end, like, oh, he was selling the secrets with this other guy in the corporation.
Right.
And it's just like, but they never show them selling the secrets. They never show them being on a computer and doing that, which I thought it was going to be, because the title credits open up with a woman with the longest acrylic nails I've ever seen.
I think that's Stuart in drag.
It would not surprise me, just like the extreme close-ups of her.
Yes.
And just like typing on that K-Pro with the title credits, like it's the 80s. We got technology. We got this K-Pro. We're going to have our title sequence right there.
That's a Sidaris staple. He somehow finds, okay, it wouldn't be diegetic or non-diegetic because that's sound. What are visuals that are both a part of the movie and for our benefit? Do we know? There's got to be a term for it, right?
I'm not sure what they've actually. I know there probably is a term, but I don't have my Yale film glossary, which is one I always recommend. I used it to help teach courses to be like, hey, this is what this is called. This is parallel editing. This is a cheat cut. This is a high angle shot, low angle shot. Just like.
You would be the first person to ever use a Yale glossary of film for an Andy Sidaris film, Malibu Express, or otherwise any other film.
Extreme close up of the nails. Just like
this is a smash cut to a drag queen, and then into a cheek cut into two topless co-eds.
Yep.
So the film opens and we have who I believe to be Stuart in another form of drag, but I could be wrong. Forgive me to whoever that lady is if it wasn't Stuart. And she's like typing out the credits of like who's in the movie and like Playboy Playmates, which is its own section of the credits. Penthouse whatever. Penthouse Pets. And then at the end, it's she's like coded Malibu Express in the screen or whatever. So we know it's going to be about technology and computers and this, that, whatever. Shane's subplot consists of screwing Stuart's wife, having an affair with her.
Yep.
The grossest thing in this movie.
Oh,
is, and it's meant to be gross, but it's still gross.
Yeah.
Is he barges his way into the shower of, is that Stuart's sister or Stuart's daughter? Stuart's sister, right?
sister,
Yeah.
Liza,
who seems younger than everybody else. She seems like maybe she's in her mid-20s. I don't know if she is or she isn't. But I thought she was the daughter, and that really creeped me out. But then they said, "Oh, well, your brother, blah blah blah." He leaves basically having sex with the sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Goes into the bathroom where Liza's having a shower and forces himself on her in the shower. But in a typical 80s movie, she eventually relents and is actually into it. That's pretty gross, right?
Yeah, that was very uncomfortable. And then took pictures of it, too, for blackmail purposes.
That part she wasn't into. He, like, set up a Instamatic camera and, like, had it on action mode. And so it was, like, all of a sudden start snapping shots. And that's when she really freaked out and was, like, you know, her better judgment kicked in or whatever. And so, yeah, he finally relents because he got what he wanted, which was more blackmail. So he's blackmailing the husband for being a drag performer. And
also, it's very heavily implied that he also had sex with the husband.
Correct.
But we don't see a picture of that.
There's apparently footage of them having sex with each other. Yes. He's videotaped himself having sex with Stewart's wife. And he's got photographs of him having sex with Stewart's sister.
Yes.
And whoever isn't fucking Shane is fucking Cody or wants to fuck Cody in this movie.
Yep.
They're just two giant, no pun intended, poles of sexual magnetism that every other woman and man in the film is attracted to.
Yep.
That is what we believe Shane's plot to be. But it actually turns out that, no, that's not it. I mean, that's part of it, but that's not the real shenanigans he's involved in. Yeah. The real shenanigans he's involved in is selling national secrets and computer chips to the Russians. How
the
much
company
more?
The Chamberlains are with. So,
yes. How much more money do you think? Okay. What's the more profitable enterprise, Raz? Selling secrets to the Russians or blackmailing rich people for their nudes?
I think the latter would obviously be there's less of a risk.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you don't end up becoming a puppet for a foreign government.
You're not going to be like the Rosenbergs or.
Yeah, Shane's not later going to have to run for president due to the bribes he took from the Russians in the 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even though I always found it funny, just like the Russians are buying everything. The Russians are buying everything. It's like, wow, they really thought the Russians had a ton of money in the mid 80s when it was already starting to collapse at this point.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union was already having issues right before Mikhail Gorbachev actually took the reins. So they thought, ooh, super powerful. They have all this money and wealth. They could buy everything. It's like, no, not really.
Let's talk about our leading man, Darby Hinton, as Cody Abilene. Is Hinton a good actor?
No.
Is he only cast?
It's just like he's excitingly bored. Is how I would describe it.
Is he?
He sounds disinterested, but also excited about what's disinteresting him. It's very hard. It's this weird dichotomy that he has. So he has almost the same infliction for everything that happens. Like, oh, dead body. It's like, ooh, boobs. Get those knockers out of my face. Like, I think that's the most acting I ever saw when he's trying to get June Knocker's boobs out of his face when he was in that, when the bad guys are chasing after. It's like, get those out, get away, the truck driver's gonna get us.
Yes.
Like, this is the most acting I've seen of him do at this movie.
Yeah, he was really pissed at those tits there for a second.
Yes, he was.
Was he only cast because he vaguely, with the mustache, looked like Magnum P.I.?
I think so, yeah. And of course, his dyed hair, just like, it looks a lot like, it looks a bit like MacGyver too, as well. The Richard Dean Anderson look a little bit as well. He's like a Tom Selleck meets a MacGyver sort of. I think he's the son of a former television actor, so he's a Nepo baby too.
I see.
So,
I see. Now,
he's
credit where credit is due. Like, he's in incredible shape. He's not like...
He is in incredible shape.
Like, the muscle to fat tissue ratio is pretty dialed in. I mean, he is shredded in this movie. And so...
He is.
He has a nice tan. And
he's not as shredded as Luke, but Luke was played by an actual bodybuilder, so
correct. Very
hard stuff. And also, I'm obsessed with the fact that the hired goons are named after 3 of the apostles.
What? Yeah, okay. Why are Matthew, Mark, and Luke the villains?
I know, because they're just like, we're just doing our job. We're just doing this, and just like.
But why are they named after? I know that the main guy at the company is John, who's selling the secrets. Did he only hire goons who had names of other canonical disciples?
Yes.
So that he could have a gang?
Need to have names of the disciples, or you can change your name.
Right. So that's are those aliases, or did he only vet the resumes of bodybuilder goons who also had names of the apostles?
I feel like you have to vet the resumes for hired goons, because you have to make sure they are good at their job.
You need good goon qualities.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now,
goons, what goons? Hired goons.
Hired gooning. We're trying to get Gen Alpha to realize that breasts and buttocks and balls and dicks are fine in film, correct?
Exactly. Yes.
You make that argument on Twitter all the time.
And sometimes they can even be super boring, which is fine.
In Malibu Express, they're very boring.
They're not as boring as Bat Pussy, which I just saw recently, but yeah.
Okay.
I saw because I heard it was called the worst porno ever. I'm like, oh, it can't be that bad. And I was like, yeah, it is really bad. But it is kind of entertaining, but it is the worst porno I've ever seen. Now people are going to say I'm a pornomancer. It's like, no, I sometimes like to watch just like themed porn films, especially some from the 80s. Like, I own a copy of Edward Penis Hands because it's just so fascinating to me. Just like, what version of shows and movies can you make out of this, and how do you do this? What does this look like?
My question about Edward Penis Hands is, who is that for?
I think it's for women, because she only really uses, because his hands are penis hands, so it's just for the women's pleasure. So I'm like, okay. But
I'm familiar enough with the material of Edward Penis Hands to know that they're sort of just crudely gloved dildo-looking things. Like, they're garish. They're very gnarly hentai adjacent.
They really are. They really are. It was very interesting, I should say.
I understand the novelty of owning it. I don't understand I don't understand its erotic value in 1990, whatever. It's like, oh, we're at the video store. Let's rent Edward Penis Hands, honey. Like,
it was actually at a video store. I bought it because the video store unfortunately was going out of business, and I was like, I'm going to the adult section.
You have to. When they go to business, you got to go into the adult section. Exactly. Then you got to handle a copy of a video. Oh,
you're such a pervert. Just like, it's just fascinating, the creativity that goes into some of this stuff, and it's fast. And of course, there are going to be some people. It's like, oh, those women were exploited. It's just like, a lot of them weren't. There were some, like Linda Lovelace was forced by her husband, and that is tragic.
Yes. Yeah.
But a lot of them weren't, and a lot of them are proud of their work. So.
Well, okay. I think
it's a shades of gray. It's not like completely like, oh God, it's all exploitive. It's like, no, I think there is some consent. There is a lot of consensual work going on there.
Yes. And the one thing that I will say about this movie is this is a sleazy film.
It is.
But it's almost more sleazy in concept and talking about it than it is when you watch it. Because
it really is.
A lot of the shots, again, like, okay, I'm going to use your term. What would you say? Like, excited disinterest? Like, the movie is like purportedly titillating, no pun intended. But I don't get the feeling that, like, sometimes you watch a movie and you can almost feel the erection of the male director as he's shooting the stuff. You feel the licentiousness.
Oh, blue is the warmest color is probably a really big example I could feel.
Yeah, or Herbie Fully Loaded or something like that, right? you just, or any of those weird Nickelodeon shows, you can feel the lust of the director who's like, yeah, you know.
Yes. Or Pasolini films, it feels like the gay lust in a sense.
Yeah,
like some of those shots in like Medea, it's like Pasolini was definitely sleeping with this actor right here. Like you could feel it.
You can feel it. And the most recent movie earlier this year, Challengers, when it's the two male characters, you can feel the lust that for these two male figures, both their bodies, their characters, their affinity for each other, so forth and so on. I don't get, maybe I'm wrong, and you can say I'm wrong on my own show. That's why you're here. You're the expert on, you're our sexpert, our pornomancer, whatever you called yourself. I don't get I don't get that leering vibe. It feels more workmanly. It feels like if I have X amount of breasts and X amount of buttock and X amount of shirtless male per minute in this movie, I can sell this to Cinemax and it will air for the next 18 years.
It kind of does, except for the scene where they are picked up in the RV by Andy Sidaris right there in his cameo.
And his wife.
And it gives him, and his wife. Yes. And it gives him a POV shot where Andy's character is looking at knockers, at the actress playing her last name is Knockers, just looking at her knockers.
With an H. Yes.
Knockers with an H. And Darby Hinton's dad was Ed Hinton. He was known for playing Special Agent Henderson in the drama series I Led 3 Lives. So
interesting.
So he was a Nepo baby.
Nepo baby.
Even though he died, his dad died when he was 39. So, but I'm pretty sure there was some. But I'm pretty sure that was like, the people are like, oh, I know your dad. I knew your dad. But
Andy Sidaris, he got to start being a director for television. He directed a ton of 60s and 70s TV shows. And then in the 80s, he transitioned to making these low budget exploitation films. So he might have, if we look through both our IMDb's, he might have worked with his dad. He was a guest director on a show.
I think it was also Roger Corman was supposed to be a producer on this, but Roger Corman wanted him to add more maybe more plot details because it just seemed to
that's
be plotless.
Wild. Okay, every
or
story,
like something or like some more horror elements to sell, and he's like, Corman, I'm selling boobs and bombs, and just like.
Every Corman story is Corman agreed to make the movie, but he said we had to put more boobs in it. Andy Sidaris is the only filmmaker probably in history where Roger Corman said, "This is too many boobs. We need more plot."
Probably Roger Corman's like, I'm getting a little old. I think we need something else. Like just like maybe if Russ Meyer should have been the producer if he was still alive. If Russ
Meyer was involved in this film, June Knockers would be the least endowed woman in this film. Russ Meyer wasn't just a breast man. He was what Roger Ebert referred to his movies, and he would obviously know, as hyper mammalian. The women in the movies were hyper mammalian.
Same with Fellini. Fellini would just look at this and be like, these breasts aren't big enough.
They're not. We talked about.
You need more curvy women here.
Right? Full-figured women. Yeah. These are definitely. These are some 80s. These are
80s Playboy models right there.
Yes,
and it's
80s
really
aesthetic.
surprising to think about the cultural changes with that, because when Playboy started, it had more curvy women like Marilyn Monroe and all these people.
Yes.
And then when you get to the 80s, I feel like that was the exercise obsession eras when it really
and the cocaine obsession era and the breast implant obsession era.
In fact, it's just like, I love going to the gym, where he actually is like, I love the lady watching at the gym. He even says it.
Yes.
There. It's like, yep, he goes mostly to the gym to watch ladies, but also to keep his bod tight.
Okay, let's dive into that for a second. That's really interesting, because you're exactly right. If you look at even like the nudie cuties or the the nudist camp films and so forth and so on. Full figured, very whatever you would say, natural women, right? Just like curves, cellulite, like they look like human beings.
They do.
That was the beauty standard, to be buxom, to be voluptuous, to the hourglass figure, the full figure, obviously your Marilyn Monroe's, your Jane Mansfield's, the list goes on and on.
Sophia
Loren, exactly.
Yes.
I was actually searching for her name, but Sophia Loren, exactly. And then
Brigitte Bardot as well.
Yes.
Just remembered.
Yeah, you can keep shouting them out. Then we get into, there are enough legal stimulants on the market that can be prescribed to you, plus this wonderful drug named cocaine. And cigarettes are plentiful, which tends to keep, for everybody, body fat down. So you can now be lean, and we've also developed safer versions of the silicone breast implant. So if you lose the fat deposits around your breast, you can just get breast implants, so you can be a size 0 with giant honking breasts, which is not naturally possible for the most part.
No, and that hurts your back so much. Every single time I see them, like, oh, her poor back. And
it created this aesthetic that kind of peaked in the 90s, if you think about it, with like Pamela Anderson and Nicole Smith. Although Nicole Smith is a full-figured woman, but Pamela Anderson would be the best version of it. Baywatch and all that. Of the rail-thin, bleached blonde woman with giant bolt-ons. And somewhere in between, Andy Sidaris made his bread and butter. And what struck me as I was watching this movie was how little ass these women had in these films.
I know, like, there's even a butt shot for them. It's like, that's
there was no interest in really there was more interest in, to your point, Cody's ass and male asses than female asses, because at the time, that the beauty standard, nobody gave a shit about asses. Sir Mix-a-Lot had not educated white America that fat asses are where we should be looking. And so it's just these sort of long, and then to your point, hastily cut scenes of women taking their tops off, or putting their tops on, or taking a shower or whatever. And it's like so banal. It is so empty.
Exactly.
I don't get the sense that
I can see more people getting turned on by poor things in this film.
So. Yeah, yes. I don't get the sense that Andy Sidaris, like, his character is like, big breast, blah, blah, blah. But I don't get that sense that he's all that excited about the female form in either a appreciative way or a lustful way.
No.
It's just there for money.
It reminds me a bit of little boys who become in their first taken sex ed class, and they just become obsessed with breasts, but they don't really understand how the human body works. So they think just like, oh, the vagina, it must be like up near their stomach somewhere.
Right. No, you're exactly right.
And the thing that excites them the most is getting to touch breasts, not actually having sex.
It's the idea of boobs. Yeah, it's not sex. It's the idea of boobs. Yeah, you nailed it. No pun intended. Yeah, you are, no entendre there. You are exactly right. It's not even sophomoric. It's almost, if you could make a sleazy pre-adolescent film. This isn't adolescent sexual mores or ideas. It's pre-adolescent. It's like, it's sex ed. It's like, it's like I'm supposed to like boobs, and I don't exactly know why, and I don't know what they feel like, but I really want to feel them, and I have an opportunity to see some unclothed boobs, and I have hidden JC Penney bra ads under my mattress, and I look at them, and I imagine what boobs are like. That's what this is. Yeah.
Basically, it really is.
And even Cody is like, I'm kind of,
like, he has sex with Beverly and Lady Contessa a couple times.
Yes.
And
Presumably,
And,
he has sex with the two. He has a three-way.
Yeah,
with
the
two
two
girls.
other women in the yacht, just like, can we use your bath? Can we use your shower? Just have the communal shower.
Yeah,
in there.
that's the most porno scene in the movie. You know,
straight girls just obviously have communal showers
two
all the
co-eds
time.
just show up on your yacht as you're there and are like, can we use your shower? And they shower together and then come out naked or in towels, wet, and then want to have a three-way with you. That was the most porno aspect of the whole movie, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of has, it's MacGyver color John Holmes haircut.
It does.
With a mustache. It's like if Magnum PI and MacGyver and John Holmes had a son, it would be Darby Hinton. And
it really is.
And I think his flat line delivery adds a level of porno quality to this that isn't inherent to the movie.
It really does.
You know what I mean? Like, there's that era of late 70s, early 80s pornos that tried to have plots, that tried to be movies.
Mm-hmm. Because they were actually showing in theaters.
Yes,
people were seeing Deep Throat in a movie theater with so many other people.
And they're not finding the best actor. They're finding the guy with the biggest dick who can keep it hardest the longest.
Or the woman who could give the best deep throat, like Linda Lovelace, or or those others. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Attributes like that.
Correct. And so therefore you have these guys, these hack writers who are just like in an afternoon trying to come up with a plot to get to the next sex scene. So you have bad dialogue in the mouth of people who aren't actors, who are just trying to make money.
Yep.
And the actual craft of the film is trying to get the right shots and angles for the sex, because that's what the movie is really about. If you want to know more about it, go see
you don't even see
Nights.
thrusting. You don't even see that, so you can't even say it's soft core. Well, not like soft core, because I have seen some soft core porn that does at least have some thrusting in it. But
this isn't even that. No. Yeah, and that's the other interesting element of this. I had never seen Malibu Express before. I'd seen scenes from it, but I'd never seen the entire film. And I had seen Hard Ticket to Hawaii. There's another one.
The best one.
Well, no spoilers. And I'm like, why does this simultaneously feel like porn and not porn at all? Feels like porn because the guy looks like a porno actor. Feels like porn because there's a bunch of at least porn magazine centerfolds in it. Feels like porn because the plot doesn't make any sense. And it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like porn because I don't think anybody's all that excited about the nudity, including the people making the movie.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like porn because there is no even simulated sex. We like yada yada the actual sex scenes.
Yeah, no.
We just always it's almost like a 50s
they're just rolling
movie.
Around under the covers.
Yeah, they roll around under the covers.
That's all it gets to.
Yeah, and then before the camera pans to the wall, I'm like, is this a Hitchcock movie? Like, why are we panning to an open window? Like, it's such a strange concoction of elements that I felt both dirty and clean watching it at the same time.
You really do.
It almost made it creepier.
I want to be sexy like the 70s, stuff like that. But we're in Reagan. We're in the Reagan epoch right here. We're in the Reagan entertainment where we have to also be a bit more conservative. So, and it's just this weird dichotomy that comes with it. Into play. And also, I love that you brought up, it feels like a kid getting excited about sex ed, because that scene where Cody actually does finally shoot a target for once is because Knockers actually distracts the guy with her boobs out, just like, hey, just like, pooh, and he's like, oh, and he stops moving. It's like, oh, I can shoot him now, bam. Like he gets so excited, like he's never seen breasts before. That guy.
Is there any other subtext to the fact that our hero, he's not shooting blanks? That wouldn't be the metaphor. that he has horrible aim, that only the women in the movie can shoot the bad guys. He has this giant magnum, this giant phallic-like gun that at times he holds so low it's almost serving
it's
as
almost
his
like
penis.
it's a penis right there.
Right. But he can't hit anything with it.
I almost feel like it's a metaphor that he's actually not very good at sex.
Or
maybe he's like a pull-out king. It's just like, ooh, or it's just like, or like he shoots, just like, never get a woman pregnant.
That's what I'm saying is like, the surface level joke of it is he's the hero of the movie and he's incompetent at solving mysteries.
I think it's also to make fun of him, and it's just like he's like, ooh, he's the sense of hyper masculine, but also he's pretty pathetic.
He's a macho.
That's supposed to be hyper masculine, and that the women are the best shooters in this. And Lady Contessa is the one who actually solves this for him and does the work basically for him. It actually kills Shane.
Yes,
it actually figures this all out. It's like, oh, come and meet me in Hawaii. It's like, he's pretty incompetent, honey. Do you want to be with him? He's just like, well, okay. You're so much better than this. Okay?
You just nailed it again. The movie doesn't end with the super macho guy and his Ferrari red DeLorean and his dad's car with a rocket strapped to it, who kills all the bad guys. Like, he can't kill any of the bad guys. The big breasted.
This was released months before Back to the Future, so he did not get a DeLorean because of Back to the Future. He just had a DeLorean in this.
It was just the 80s, yeah. The big breasted women around him are the ones who solve the crimes and shoot the bad guys.
Exactly.
He has a gun, but he can't hit anything with it.
As well as Lady Contessa.
Yeah, no matter how big his dick is, he can't hit anything with it. And then at the end, he doesn't solve the crime and seduce the foreign busty double agent James Bond femme fatale figure.
Yes.
The femme fatale figure solves the crime.
Yes.
And invites him to be her fuck toy on an island somewhere. Not the other way around, right? This isn't like Connery's Bond, where at the end he whisks the woman away to the tropics to bed her. She's bedding him. And that's where, like, I'm so confused by this movie, which is we're kind of fucking around with gender stereotypes, like 80s hyper gender stereotypes. The hypersexualized women are like kind of
the
sexualized,
ones who get shit done,
but they're the ones who get shit done. Exactly. And the guys are incompetent. And that theme only gets stronger through the rest of Sidaris's filmography.
Exactly. Yeah,
because eventually
expresses the two women who are actually the FBI agents.
That's it. Eventually, the dudes are even fucking in these movies.
Exactly.
There's no more Cody Abilene, his cousin, that shows up in the next movie. He's barely a fucking character.
Exactly.
I'm like, he's just like, so like, you're a feminist. You're a feminist scholar. Is Andy Sidaris a feminist filmmaker? Did he make misogynistic feminist films?
I think there's a part of that where there is a lot of male gaziness coming into play, but it also is undermining it with the story, with the plot right there, with the idea that men are in control. He's not a Howard Hawks protagonist. He's not Sam Spade. He's not actually going to figure this out, where it's just like,
there's no chance of figuring it out.
I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to take out the femme fatale. No, the women are going to actually do this. It reminds me a little bit of the Big Lebowski, because
there you go.
When you watch the film, the true Big Lebowski is Maude, and in another sense, her mom too, because they're the ones who were in control of finances. They were in control of the people working under them. And they actually knew what was going on. And none of the men in that movie actually can do that. They don't have any control. So the literal Big Lebowski is Maude, because she's the one who's like, I know exactly what's going on. And I know and I am not dealing with this. So and I have all this money. So
yeah. jury is still out, I guess, if whether or not Sidaris is intentionally a feminist, or maybe his wife is like.
I think that was his wife. Really, I think that's the wife bringing it in, and he actually saying, "Yeah, I want you to bring this in," just like saying, "I think this is good stuff. Let's have this, honey." I was like, "Good for Andy." Just for
But
that,
did
for
he not
being
know?
so controlling to be like,
Yeah,
"No, this has to be like my thing."
Did he not know that his wife and creative partner was like undermining the entire purpose of his work?
Or maybe he actually agreed with it in a sense, but he's just like, I still want my titties though.
That's where I go, maybe this is just commercialism. Yeah. Like maybe this is less a director who's working out his fetish on film, and it's just craven capitalism. It's just, I like boobs as much as the next guy.
Part of that.
But
he reminds me a bit of Mel Brooks. This is going to be very weird to say because Mel Brooks in his later career would actually hire a lot of Playboy actresses in his films because he's like, I need beautiful women in there. In fact, the actress who plays Maid Mary in this, she's actually the secretary in Blazing Saddles with her bosom just exposed right there. And Mel Brooks just saying like, "Hi boys, did you miss me? I love you," right to her chest. It's like,
yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. Yeah, the
Blazing Saddles. It's the busty secretary.
The busty Maid Marian, who, if she had any more cleavage, I don't know that she'd have a neck.
I know.
I was like, holy moly. She's just a Jerry curl and a pair of boobs. It's bizarre.
Yep.
She's from Blazing Saddles.
And she actually got lines in this film, unlike Blazing Saddles.
Correct.
It's like, good for her.
So Andy Sidaris objectified her less and gave her more agency than Mel Brooks in Blazing Saddles.
We technically did.
Molly, we have the opportunity to open a whole new wing of feminist film scholarship. It's the Andy Sidaris critical lens of feminist film scholarship.
I think a lot of what the people have with this, and also Carol Clover discussed this in Men, Women, and Chainsaws.
Yeah. Yep.
Where it does bring up that a lot of films that a lot of feminists would say, this is just objectification. Why are you watching this? Why would you enjoy this? Actually have those undermining currents in it and have actually those lessons that, hey, these women are actually smarter than men, she actually wrote a bit about how some former sexual assault survivors would watch I Spit on Your Grave because it gave them catharsis after.
No, you're right. That makes total sense that, the upfront part of it, of this horrible, violent assault, which is, entirely distasteful. But the movie doesn't end with the trauma. That trauma gets turned into vengeance. That trauma gets turned into a sort of vigilante justice, which in the real world, there's not often justice or closure for those sorts of events.
Exactly.
So I could definitely see some people resonating and feeling empowered, or maybe gaining some measure of healing from that too. So,
and we all see media differently. It's just
very true.
We're not going to just say, "Oh, this is all terrible. It should be thrown in the garbage." That sort of thing. Just like, no, it's just that's not a very ethical way to watch movies in a sense.
That's kind of the logistic that we're working through with when you're talking about a filmmaker. All jokes and everything else aside, like an Andy Sidaris, is a representation is not endorsement. Depiction is not endorsement. The fact that the movie depicts something, it could depict it for a variety of reasons. It's not every depiction you see on screen is a message that the filmmaker is trying to communicate. I don't think Malibu Express is trying to get across a worldview about this is how you should vote. This is how you should think about Malibu or yachts or wealthy West Coasters or the Russians, or I don't think he gives a shit about any of that. I think this is a goofy movie sold on the proposition of seeing attractive women and attractive men in various states of disrobement. When that wasn't easy to come by. That's the other thing. Like, boobs are a dime a dozen now. Butts are a dime a dozen. You can see boobs and butts on TikTok and Instagram as long as it's not female nipples.
Female presenting nipples.
Female presenting nipples. Yes, correct.
I always think about that on Tumblr. Just like, no female presenting nipples.
Sorry, Matt F. Bosler. Yeah. So, but you can find anything you want on the internet, right?
You really can, and that's why
you couldn't in 1985. There was no internet.
No, why do you think Baywatch was so popular, even though it's a terrible show?
Correct. Yeah, what do they call it? Jiggle TV or something like that. So yeah,
or just with slow motion was a big part of that.
So this movie has some great lines in it. I want to run some of these by you. Okay. All right. I'm gonna try to do my best Andy Sidaris line reading. You really are horse shit at showing your emotion, but I like that in a man. Now I'm going to try to do Cody Abilene, whose accent comes and goes throughout the movie.
Yeah, like you forget, oh, he's from Texas. Right. And then you remember when something like innocuous, just like, oh, they're playing harmonica country music during the sex scene. I remember writing in just like, harmonicas are not sexy instruments. What are you doing?
Yeah. They decided to score the very few sex scenes we got with harmonica, not saxophone. Mama was afraid of airplanes and boats, but she loved trains. She was killed last year when a private rail car jumped a track. So in her memory, Daddy and I painted a picture of a caboose and put it in front of our boat. That is such a weird gag.
And then
right?
you see the picture of the caboose, just says Malibu Express on it.
That's the other thing.
She was afraid of yachts. I'm just like, she was afraid of boats.
She's afraid of boats.
I'm exaggerating his accent.
She's afraid of boats.
I feel like because I'm actually from the South, I feel I have permission to make fun of it.
Yes. It's not, you're not, what's the term? Appropriating. That is your culture. Why is that in this movie? His mom is him and his dad. They had to have a title
in some fashion.
No, but him and his dad love boats, and he lives on a yacht. A house. His yacht serves as a houseboat for him.
Yes.
His mom hated boats, but she loved trains. His mom was killed a year ago by a train that jumped the tracks and killed her. The train that jumped the tracks was called the Malibu Express. And he decides to paint a mural of that train that killed his mom and put it in front of his yacht to piss off the rich neighbors around him because his family's not rich, but yet somehow they still have a yacht.
Maybe it's like an fuck you, mom, because you hated boats and this was his dream or something like that. I am just spinning conjecture right here.
He's choosing to honor his mother by saying fuck you to the wealthy people at the yacht club. It's very strange. It's a very strange joke. Okay. Now, speaking of the co-eds and the yacht and the shower and the porno of it all, this is a line straight from hardcore pornography.
Yeah.
We understand that you're a private investigator, and we want to know if you'll investigate our privates.
The puns in here were just like so awful.
First of all, do adults say privates anymore?
No.
That's gone by the wayside, right? Like people used to refer to them like adults as privates. They don't anymore.
I think if you're talking to a child, they refer to it as private parts.
But Private Parts was Howard Stern's biography and the movie about it.
Yeah, that's
Shaving
right.
Ryan's Privates was the Spielberg porn parody. Yes. So even in the 90s, we said privates. We don't anymore. Yes. We've moved beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
We say torta now. Those are my favorite lines of the movie. I'm going to offend people when I say this next part. Malibu Express to me is what most James Bond movies seem like to me, just with a lower budget. Like, I can't get into 99.9% of James Bond movies because they feel like Malibu Express.
Mm-hmm.
Am I wrong about that, or would you disagree?
I can agree with you for some of the entries for James Bond, because I do remember watching so many of them as a kid, and I'm like, oh, I'm so bored. Why does he have to hug that woman so tight in bed again? Because when I was a kid, I'm just like 6, I'm not thinking of sex. I'm like, why does he have to do that so much? I'm bored.
All right. I have a few more questions for you.
I have to say, I think one of my favorite line readings from Cody in the film was just like during the sex scene with the Countessa Luciana during the middle of it, just like, oh, sorry, babe, I gotta have some water. And he just goes and gets him water.
Oh yes, but that ends up being integral to the plot.
And it ends up, yeah. And I was like, but when I first heard it, I was like, what? I'm like, oh, babe, I'm sorry, babe, I gotta have some parts.
But that ends
it made me think of that Sesame Street sketch, that one where he's like, am I thirsty? Am I thirsty? Am I thirsty? And Bert's just like, I'll get you a glass of water. Like, oh, thank you, Bert. Thank you. He's so nice getting me a glass of water. Here's one glass of water.
The final explanation of here's how all unfolded. This is Chekhov's post-coitus water? Or she's like, Cody, I knew that we had, from the previous time that we had sex, that you get thirsty after climaxing. So I waited for you to get thirsty during the second time we were having sex. And once you asked for water, I had it ready for you.
Some sleeping powder in it.
Sleeping powder. And I used that time that you conked out after you blew your load for me to go.
To put on the Liza wax mask and kill Shane. Yes. And it's just like, oh, don't bother using the mask as evidence. It's going to be melting in front of your face right now. And then the tape just like exploded like Mission Impossible. Well,
the tape I understand, because that's an old Mission Impossible gag.
Yeah.
How did she on the tape know she has the mask? Mission Impossible style.
That was just going to melt just right there, right after he got the cloth out. I was like, no, and realistically, it would have already been the wax just piled up.
Correct. Because he's such an idiot. How could she have known to the minute when he would have figured out that it wasn't Liza, it was her?
She's such a badass.
And he only happens to figure it out.
She was the woman who figured out what was going on in the film. And she was just like, I already figured this out. And I also got to kill this a-hole. A-hole was trying to blackmail and also rape this and also sexually assaulted this person. So I don't feel bad at all. And that's, yeah.
And then, yeah. And I'm like, I was just like, how did you know this? Chekhov's sex water.
Yes.
It's like introduced earlier in the movie, and it comes back, and you're like, "What the fuck?" Like, it's so strange. It's so strange. Mm-hmm. As somebody who is an appreciator of the female form, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Did you find any particular body or physique in this film especially arousing or aesthetically pleasing?
I think most of them were aesthetically pleasing, but not arousing, because I'm just like, I don't really know these women. They are really one-dimensional, unfortunately, except for the Countess, so that's why she's the sexiest one.
Yeah, and it's also like kind of Sybil Danning. That's kind of her whole...
she's just so great.
It's her whole vibe, yeah. Mm-hmm. So take it from me and from Molly Razz, take it from a man presenting and female presenting person, that this movie has good, nice, hard bodies, but doesn't do much for the downstairs, if you know what we mean.
Yes.
Can you, as we bring this to a close, try to recount as briefly as possible the Contessa Luciana, whatever her name was, her plan? What was the plan? What was her plot, and how did she execute it?
Well, her plot, she did know that someone was selling secrets to the Russians, but I don't think she had a connection to the Chamberlains, while Cody did, which is where he comes in and actually gets her closer to that. And then she could be like, oh, I'm going to kill Shane anyway, the guy who's already doing this, and they're not going to prosecute me because I'm an agent at this other place, blah, blah, blah. And they thought it was Liza. And how are they going to extradite me from Hawaii? It's just like, why didn't you go back to Italy or something? It's just like, no, gotta go Hawaii, because a bunch of these films are just vacation films too. So it's just okay.
That's okay. Boy, you're very smart, and you hit it before I could get to it. She's like, they're not going to extradite me from Hawaii. I was like, Hawaii is a state. Hawaii was a state by this point. It's like saying, they're not going to extradite me from California. Like, why wouldn't they? They're not going to extradite me from I flew from Los Angeles or Malibu to New York City. They're not going to fly all the way across country to come get me. That's what the FBI is for. Yeah, they would, I guess.
Maybe
she could just as easily fly
for
back,
killing a guy who was a traitor to the nation. So they're like, nah, we're not going to do that.
That makes more sense. But yeah, she definitely has a line of like, they're not going to come all the way out here to get me, little old me or something. I'm like, why wouldn't they?
You're in Hawaii.
You're in Hawaii.
You're in the States.
It almost served. This movie is in effect like both a literal, real world and canonical prequel to every other movie that he makes, because
really
pretty much the rest of them are set in Hawaii. They're tangentially related to characters in this movie, the Cody character, kind of. There's a throwaway line about, and this poster for this movie appears in the next movie. But he didn't set this one in Hawaii. It's almost like a proof of concept to whatever cartel funded this picture's making. That he could say to whatever cartel or hairspray company or women's stockings company, pantyhose company that who funded this film. We'll shoot it in California. We'll shoot it outside of LA. I'll show you what I can do. The next one, we'll go to Hawaii. And then he never looked back. And this movie ends with what the rest of his career, at least for this run of it, would be, which is shooting big-breasted women in Hawaii, solving crimes and
he only had the budget
monsters.
For one explosion this time, because there are so many more explosions and sequels, and you're like, and I was expecting like, oh, where's the kaboom? There's supposed to be a kaboom and more kabooms in this movies.
So much more breast, man, bigger breast, more explosions, bigger explosions, more guns, bigger guns, all Hawaii. It's just right around the corner. What would you give Malibu Express? How many stars out of 5 stars would you give it?
Well, I can't say that I enjoyed it as a narrative, but I can't say I can enjoy it as an experiment.
Yes.
And I mean, like, it's not a good film.
No.
But I can't say I didn't enjoy it. So maybe 2.5 out of 5 stars, kind of the same rating that Roger Ebert gave The Mummy, because he's like, it's not a good movie, but I was very entertained. So it's like that with me.
I'm going to grade it a little bit higher because I found the convoluted nature of both its tone, its values. It is both, it's like sleazy, but not really homophobic, almost at the very least drag positive, super macho, quasi-feminist, desexualized male gaze, boob, exploitation, celibacy movie. I don't know. For that alone, I give it 3 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
All right. Our next film has more explosions and a 4th of July fire sale and more scantily clad babes and a Miami spring break. This cult classic is like a fever dream fueled by rocket launchers, toilet snakes, killer frisbees, and enough bare breasts to make Russ Meyer blush. So put on your sunglasses, crank up the old AC, and prepare for an action-packed adventure that's as B-movie brilliant as it is nonsensical. It may be a short trip, Molly, but it's a hard ticket to Hawaii.